Good morning. YouTube says says we're live. So I wanted to have this conversation a little bit while I jump in, or while I let a few people jump in. I want to bring up an article that Gary. Good morning. I want to bring up an article real briefly that I came across. This is a live feed, and so I'll post the link to this. I'll post the link to this once I get back to the house and that sort of thing, to this article. But while a few people are jumping in, Kristen sent me this article, and it was about a school in Utah. Over Valentine's Day, I guess they had a Valentine's Day dance. And the girl came back and back home from school and said, "Hey, Mom, I'm not allowed to tell a boy no if they ask me to dance." Of course, the mom was a little irate about this whole situation. Turns out she contacts the school, and school says yes. The story takes a little bit better of a turn when the principal sort of said, "Look, this is about being polite, being kind," sort of a twist. But to me, it kind of takes the path, obviously. It kind of takes the path of nobody could be rejected ever, blue ribbons, trophies. It kind of takes that path to me, which I just hate that path altogether. And this sort of ties into this video. You're not always going to be a winner. You're not always going to win at everything. You don't always get your way. You don't always get to ask the best looking girl or the best looking guy to dance, and the school is not always going to be there for the rest of your life to mandate that they must say yes. That's not real life. That's not how stuff goes. At least that's not how stuff has gone in my life. Maybe your life is a lot different. I grew up where Mountain Dew in your peanuts was sort of a good, solid, healthy breakfast. I understand other people haven't grown up there, and I'm okay with that. I just don't think it's real, and I think it's a lot of BS. I do appreciate the whole kindness, politeness sort of thing. I think that's cool. In the past, let's see, so today is Saturday morning. So in the past 8 days, I've had 4 conversations with 4 drivers that I have no idea who they are. They stumbled across my YouTube page, and so I've had 4 conversations, and I want to talk about all 4. I want to throw this as a disclaimer. I am not having this conversation. I'm not going to mention their names, but I'm not having these conversations to bust anybody's balls. I simply want to have this conversation as business owners. I guess what I want to do is try to have this conversation so that people hear what I hear, and I want you to think about whether or not you are really ready to become a lease operator or an owner operator. So, and it's not just with us. I mean, with anybody, with any other company. And by the way, I didn't charge anybody for this advice. I didn't make any penny. There is no affiliate links. There are no referral fees. This is just sort of conversation. I want to make sure that that's clear with all the other nonsense that's going on out there. So the way I look at this is, if you want to become a lease operator, several of these emails sort of came in like this. Email said, "Hey, I'm really interested in being a lease operator. You know, I'm ready. This is, I've been wanting to do this now for a couple of years. I've got 2, 3, 4 years experience. One guy had about 1.5 years experience, and I'm ready to make that jump, so on and so forth." That's sort of the message. That's sort of the inherent message. Some of these emails are a paragraph, some are a page. That's sort of the message, right? Is I want this, I'm ready, here's my quick experience. So when I have the conversation, it sort of starts off by, hey, that's great. Tell me why you're going to be successful. And I get some reasons why, that they feel like they are prepared to be successful. Some of these individuals have no other business background, some do. It's not really the point. No one is really making that case all that well, at least of the guys in the past 8 days that I spoke to. And so the one thing that I've gotten from all 4 guys is they know what kind of a truck they want. And it's sort of like one of the 4th or 5th questions I ask. In this video is sort of going to be a grenade for, I guess, how I inquire. But it's about the 4th or 5th question I ask. Everybody can answer what kind of a truck they want. I want this kind of truck. I want this. I want that. I want the Pete. I want the Kenworth. I want the Vault. Whatever it is, they got that. You know what they don't have? They don't have much of anything else. And that is really disturbing to me, because here's what you're essentially asking for. You're asking for somebody else to loan you, let's call it big round numbers, whatever, 170 grand for a truck. Maybe you want a reefer, maybe you want a dry van. You average those costs, there's another 50 grand. You want fuel cards, you want insurance, you want plates paid up. You want $250,000 business loan, and you have some number of years driving a truck. I think driving the truck is an important experience to have, clearly. But driving the truck is not the same as being a lease operator. If you don't believe me, go and ask the 30 guys that have YouTube channels that are lease operators, and they will tell you that is just one small component of the business side of things. So when guys come and they say, I don't know what forms I need to fill out, I don't know what I need to do, I don't know this and I don't know that, but they tell me that they have spent a year preparing for this, or in some cases, the gentleman said that, this is what he's wanted to do since sort of day one of getting in the truck, and that's been multiple years. Again, I'm not trying to kick on these guys. I'm not. I have a tough time buying that message of, if you're telling me this is what you've wanted since, for the past year or 2 years or longer, and you can't tell me a single thing except what type of a truck you want. You haven't priced insurance. You haven't found the truck. You haven't thought about your own authority. You haven't thought about, fuel cards or fuel discounts. You haven't looked at other percentages for other companies. You haven't checked off pros and cons. You haven't. I have a tough time buying into that. I just don't think that, as I told every one of them, I was like, you're not ready yet. That's my opinion. Now, what I'm not saying you cannot be successful. You absolutely can be successful in this industry. I just think that there has to be I guess, let me check myself on that. Does there have to be a level of business sense? And I believe that there does. Again, not that you can't. I mean, we all know that I've seen some of these guys on YouTube that they don't have much of a business sense. They go get a lease op, and they're making it. So maybe the answer is you don't need to have any business sense. Well, look, clearly you don't need to have any business sense. I just think for you to really be successful, if you're taking the time to send me an email, and we're taking the time to have a brief conversation, I want you to be successful. I do, and I don't even know who these people are. But I'm not going to sugarcoat things. Business has not always been easy. Not everything that I have touched has turned to gold or platinum. My uncle is that way. It is remarkable. Everything that guy touches turns to platinum. It is crazy. It's not always been easy, and so I think you need to be the most prepared that you can be. I think understanding your business as close as you can from the ground up, meaning things as simple as spending time on the FMCSA website and understanding what they require is kind of important. I think understanding your options for fuel cards, that's probably important. Having an idea of what your cost will be it cost per mile, cost per day. I'm not even going to have that argument in this video. I just think you need to have a general idea. Now, look, I had lunch with a driver last week, and that driver comes in and sits down and says, I've got my paperwork done. I've spent the past 6 months researching, reading everything I possibly can. I know every document that needs to be filled out. I know the cost of everything. I've filled it all out. I've had my waiting period. I've defined the couple of trucks that I wanted as I was driving around the country. I've chose that truck. I've purchased that truck. Oh, by the way, I did the same thing with a trailer. I am ready to go. This guy has spent 6 long months researching every possible thing he can to prepare himself to be successful. Oh, by the way, he knows what his cost per mile is going to be based on estimates that he has ran, because he's taken all those fixed costs that he knows he's going to have from his current truck or his new truck and trailer. He's taken the variable costs, made some assumptions, used some real costs like fuel, DEF, and other things, and applied them. So he has a general idea of what it's going to cost him to run his new stuff. Again, he doesn't know the exact, but he has a really good idea. That guy is not messing around. That guy is ready to be a lease operator or an owner operator. And I will say this about that individual. He had previously been a lease operator for JCT, John Christner, and he failed, not because necessarily, well, let me rephrase that. He failed because they essentially cut his miles down to a few hundred miles per trip, 2 or 3 runs a week. So nobody can make it on that. So he ended up walking away from the truck. I don't really know that I would classify that as failing, other than he would tell you that he made the best decision he could with the information that's available in picking the right lease company, which is a huge component of this whole game. For sure, you got to make sure you're picking. You can do all those things right. You can pick all those things. You can do all those things right, and then you can ultimately make a bad choice in the company you're going to work for relative to the freight that you can select, which is primarily their own freight. It's really, a lot of companies don't want you going outside getting spot market freight and things of that nature, your own direct customers. And I've said a lot of times you need to be wary of those types of companies. So you can still do all those things right and get latched onto a bad company that's going to drive your miles into the ground and all that sort of stuff. You have to be careful. That lease game is a really sketchy thing. So how do you know when you're ready? You know you're ready when you've dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, and you sort of look around and you go, man, I don't have any more paperwork to fill out. I don't have any more numbers to crunch. I have an idea of what kind of a truck I want. By the way, I had this conversation with 2 of them, with 2 individuals, and when they told me what kind of truck that they wanted, I asked me what type of rear end the trucks had. Now, in both occasions, these individuals had identified used trucks that they wanted. I asked them what type of rear end they had. Neither one of them knew. That's, sort of knowing your powertrain and your transmission with the rear end's geared at. That's sort of one of those things that's kind of important relative to fuel mileage, which is going to be one of your biggest costs. To not know that, I think you're sort of missing a huge piece of the puzzle. That determines, again, that has a direct impact to what's going to be either your first or your second largest cost. And so for guys to go, well, I don't know, it's got a rear end, yeah, that stuff matters. I can tell you, Howard, as we were getting some pricing here a few weeks back on another truck vendor, he spent a lot of time. He spent a fair amount of time working with those guys, talking through rear ends and which one was the right one for us. It's just that important, guys. So that's how I think you know whether or not you're ready. And I think you need to have conversations with guys that are I'm not going to sit here and BS anybody or blow smoke up. I mean, if anybody's watched my channel for more than a few videos, you probably know that. I also think that you can make money and you should be out there and you should try to own your own business and be successful. I think there's a lot of satisfaction in that. It's a little scary at times. There's a lot of satisfaction in that. Got to have a good team of people, but ultimately you're the one making the decisions, and you've got to make all the right decisions. And all the right decisions, a lot of those decisions start before you ever sign your name on the dotted line, before you ever pick that truck guy. There's just a lot of homework to do for guys to have the best chance at being successful. So, anyways, that's one of those things that's kind of been on my mind the last week or so as I've had some of these conversations, and I feel like a jerk because I'm sort of in their face a little bit when I get 5 or 10 or 15 minutes into the conversation, and they're nowhere ready, but they're kind of coming to me saying, hey, would you loan me $250,000? Again, that's how I sort of look at it. Hey, loan me $250,000. I want to do this. And so that's probably not going to happen, right? It's probably not going to happen. I sort of look at it differently. I know that there's probably every other company in this country would love to have these 4 guys walk in the door, hold up a piece of paper, sign here, press hard, 3 copies, right? Here are the keys to a truck, go. I really genuinely want guys to be successful. The scary thing is that a couple, almost every one of these guys was sort of taken aback a few minutes into them when I start asking, rattling off 10 or 15 questions and they're not prepared. You can sort of hear man, this isn't what I didn't call for this, right? I just called for somebody to tell me yes. And I did apologize, kind of initially for being so direct and kind of in their face. But I feel like hopefully they hear that message and they hear that there are a lot of other things to consider and think about, and that there are some people that think about those things and it's important. And it's not just about signing the document and jumping to a new truck that smells good and it's shiny. There's just a lot more to it. And again, the fact that you've got, I don't care if it's 3 years or 13 years driving, I don't know that transitions incredibly well to understanding taxes and costs and profit and loss, rates, lanes, truck to road, the load ratios. I think it should transition well for fuel mileage and things of that nature. You should have some experience there. I don't know. I basically just went on a rant for 18 minutes. Let me answer some or read some questions. All right, good morning to a lot of people. This guy's got a leash on his dog. The dog is excited to be at this park and took off, and the guy's running after him, trying to chase the leash. Yeah, Johnny, you're right. I'm just going way back up top. Boys should be taught how to respectfully and politely ask a young lady to dance. And here's the other beautiful thing about this. We should all learn how to accept rejection and loss and failure. And that's okay. It's just sort of part of life. Trucking with Anthony says he's not allowed to coach anymore because I won't give trophies to everyone. I teach my kids that you win and lose. Winning's better. I did too. What's funny was when I coached in Colorado, it was a relatively affluent area. A lot of the families had, noticeable amounts of money, but what was interesting is they wanted their kids to be on my team because there was not a lot of blue ribbons and that sort of stuff. And when guys didn't pay attention, we ran poles, or we did push-ups, or we did up-downs, and we did things to the minute. Every practice was scheduled to the minute. There was a sense of urgency. There was a sense of quality, not quantity. And almost every one of those young men from that team are lettering in high school sports and as their junior or sophomore years. I think that's cool. Again, these are 5A and 6A school, mostly 5A schools. And for these guys to go into a 5A school and letter in one or multiple sports, a lot of it has to do with discipline. A lot of it has to do with their athletic ability. But they've got to accept failure. Little Dog's in here. How are you? Big Face. Welcome, sir. SoCal's in the house. How are you, man? You guys are all talking about Viking paws. I have heard there are a lot of stuff going Red Vikings way. And look, I think it's great to be positive. I struggle with when positivity crosses some imaginary line. I think that line is different for all of us. When it goes from positivity to BS, we all sort of have our own little red flags or indicators. And I'm sure we all cross our own respective lines there. I've been really vocal about guys that are charging other drivers, especially beginning drivers who are the ones that have the least amount of disposable income, for advice that I think is really just basic one-on-one advice. I've had an issue with those people since day one. Greg Enman, absolutely. You know, Greg, I don't know, Greg, can I share this? I hope I can. Greg is an owner-operator. And Greg, forgive me because I forget your exact story of how long he's been an owner-operator, but Greg has a master's degree from DU, Denver University. For those that don't know, Denver University sort of sounds like one of those smaller schools. So what? DU is a very highly touted university for business degrees. Greg Edmond has a master's, I believe it is, from DU, and so he's not a dummy. And as he just said, you know, driving is the easy part, and I would agree with that. SoCal, I agree with that too. People have to do their homework. No, here's the problem, right? They don't have to, but they should. And I think that's where a lot of the problems exist. Checking with Anthony says, that's what I'm doing now. Haven't pulled the trigger because I'm doing all the research. So this is great info and appreciate it, brother. You're welcome. Look at this. Howard's awake. Yukon's in the house too. Yukon leaves me a truck in the Northeast. Most of these people are just buying a job, and I did a video on that. Man, it just comes across as so, you know, it comes across as just so kind of screw you, those types of videos when I say that kind of stuff. But I sort of feel like I don't hear anybody else saying that stuff. I hear everybody else saying how hard it is or how great it is, and most of which is how great it is. They're holding up checks, or they're charging you for information that, for what little information I've heard from those other channels, I believe it to be wrong. I will also tell you that I think any channel that is going to, or any person that has some sort of a social media forum that wants to provide advice, but they want to do it like this, just call me, or let's do it secretly, or I'll charge you and quietly so that other people can't, quite frankly, criticize or have opinions whether or not that is solid advice or not. To me, I would be like raising the red flag right there. If people are going to give me advice in silence, that would bother me. I sort of want to hear their purpose of work or some amount of work, and you just need to be really careful, and you need to, like I've said many times, you need to vet everything you hear, because a lot of the stuff I hear from these other channels, and quite candidly, I watched them earlier. I've had a YouTube channel up for a year now, or 2 channels. I've seen some of these guys. I haven't watched much of them the past probably 6 months. The first 6 months, it was just a lot of really wrong information. Anybody that knows me will tell you, if I don't like someone, there's a 99% chance it's because they're a liar. I despise people that lie. When you start lying to people or you're misleading them, I just think it's really wrong. Hey, speaking about coaching, let me kind of bridge this gap. It was so obvious, especially like in Little League or or middle school, that kind of stuff, when you're playing kind of competitive sports, you have these guys that coach, and we used to call them Google coaches, right? They would go get their information off of Google, and they would try to then teach some scheme or something. And you can sort of teach the X's and O's, but if you don't understand why you're trying to fill this gap, if you can't really explain the why, you're just explaining the how-to. You can see those guys all day long. You can see those guys all day long, and they were just Google coaches. They may have played the game when they were in whatever middle school or high school, but they didn't really play the game at a high level. They're not, and they never really were coaches either, right? They just happen to have a kid, and so they're going to go coach. There's a lot of that same type of stuff where guys go and they listen to somebody else's content, and they come on and they flip on the camera and they start talking about this or that, but they don't really know why. And it's really, think about anything that you know really, really well. Maybe it's woodworking or whatever, ham radios or whatever, hunting unit. If you know something really well, it's really easy for you to spot when somebody else is full of crap. I mean, it's really easy to spot when somebody else is full of crap. The problem is if I don't know how to, play basketball, and I come to you and you're going to teach me how to play basketball, then if I don't know, I'm relying that what you're teaching me is correct. And if you are just a Google coach, or you just have watched somebody else's content and you start to copy that sort of stuff, it's where it gets real sketchy. And if you don't know, how are you supposed to know that that's not accurate? That's the danger in all this. Let's see. Thank you. Why is anyone charging a new driver for basic info? Robert, I'll tell you why. It's sort of the human one, because they can, right? And it's sort of like spandex. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? So because they can, and people are willing to pay for it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that when people come to this industry, I think we sort of have two ends of the spectrum. We have people that want to be in this industry, that are passionate about wanting to be a truck driver. And we have a lot of people that come into this industry because it's a last option. They're down and out, and they've had a rough go. They've made a lot of poor life decisions, but this is an industry where they can come in, they can not have somebody managing and micromanaging them every second of every day. They can have not the best background, but they can still get a job that pays decently well, that affords them the opportunity to move into becoming a lease operator or an owner operator at some point in time. And so I think some of these guys just sort of prey on that. I think some individuals, and I'm not talking about any one person here in this video, guys. I'm just sort of speaking across. Right now in my head, there's 5 or 6 or so different individuals that kind of come across my mind. And I think some are providing okay advice. I think most are providing really sketchy advice. And I would not pay for that stuff. As I've said that since day one of starting the Trucking Exec channel, whether it was the first channel or this channel. Why would you pay for that? I think the other reason is as to why people pay for it is because they think they're getting good information. And again, maybe they won't know. But I think it's because it's the lazy way out. Look, I had 2 of these 4 individuals this past week said, just tell me what to do. No, you figure it out. I mean, look, I can sort of put you on the path, but the art of learning the business is you figuring it out. You learning what paperwork, what websites, what you need to do, how frequently you need to update this information or pay these fees. You need to figure that out. You're the one wanting to be a business owner. You need to stink and figure that out. And it's okay to have a team of people that help you. But it's sort of why I started dispatching, right? I didn't have my CDL, but I started dispatching. That was as close to the ground level of this business as I could get to at the time. And so I started dispatching. Today, if Wilbur is sick or not feeling well or somebody else, I can open a tab, jump on the load boards. I know how to do that job pretty well. I can do that without skipping a beat, right? I can do that without skipping a beat. There's the value right there, is being able to understand your business from all different facets. That's what's going to lead you to be successful. Food Mooch does not like some of these guys. People have to do the numbers to know if they really want to do it or not, says SoCal. I agree, SoCal. I agree. I agree for sure. Trucker Matthew says, this content Scott produces, the content Scott produces is priceless, real truth about trucking business. I used to think driving was the hard part. This advice has helped me, and I appreciate it. You're welcome. I'm glad it helps. Hey, Canel's in here. Welcome. Hey, Canel, I didn't notice that I can't give you a wrench on the phone. Trucking with Nancy says he coached wrestling, one of the most disciplined sports. Also had a scholarship to go to a high level, but wanted to be an idiot. Never passed up another good opportunity. You know, my dad told me when I was young, he said, son, there are going to be 2 or 3 times in life where you have some exceptional opportunity. And quite frankly, you might not really know that it's going to be an exceptional opportunity at the moment. But there's going to be some door that someone opens up. Bottom line is, there's going to be a few times in your entire life an opportunity comes. It's up to you to be prepared to accept that opportunity. I can tell you, as I am in my 40s, as I look back in life, I've seen some of those opportunities. Some of them I have captured, some of them I haven't. I can tell you there is I mentioned this phrase in a few videos back, confidence versus competence. And I have kind of been the individual that I'm relatively confident, but my confidence comes because I feel like I'm relatively competent in some things. Where my confidence is low is on things that I'm just not clear about. And so oftentimes when we have those decisions or those opportunities in life, if I'm not confident of whether or not I should do something, whatever it is, make a big purchase or invest or whatever it is, if I'm not confident in something, it's because I'm not competent in it. And so that's me. That's me. I mean, if I'm just being real about myself, when I suck, when I make poor decisions, it's a lot of times it's because I haven't done my homework. I haven't prepared myself to be ready for that opportunity. That's just me. That's real. And so I feel like for guys that say they want to be in this business, they sound really confident, but when you start peeling back just a couple layers of the onion and they don't have the competence, again, I don't mean this disrespectfully, they don't have the competence that's going to allow them to take that confidence and truly be successful, I think that's a dangerous thing. I just really do. Mike says that is the problem with our industry. Everybody wants to be an owner-operator. They don't know what to do, and they don't know how much they need revenue per mile, to break even for sure. Putinwich says his dad told him when he was young, sound like a Leonard Skinner song, Simple Man. The Who, how are you? Let me jump up. I'll start to try to wrap this up. Again, I don't mean this to be a rant. In no way do I mean this to be disrespectful to anybody who wants to do this. You absolutely can make money in this business. You just need to sort of have your competence level high. That way, when the right opportunity, when that door opens or that right opportunity comes, or if you're doing the hard work and searching out for that right opportunity, you'll know it when you see it. I think that's the other big thing is there's been so many opportunities in my life as I think about, I get frustrated because I feel like I know what I'm looking for, but I don't find it. I don't find it because I haven't found what I'm looking for. but don't waver on what you want, what you're specifically looking for. And then it's inevitable, when you see that opportunity, it, and you can capitalize on it. It's sort of like buying a house. If those of you that have bought houses, right, you can go and look at, tens or hundreds of houses, and you're like, nope, nope, nope. I mean, 2 seconds after you walk in the front door, you're like, no, no, I want no part of this. You can look at 100 houses, but you walk in that one, you go, yep, this is it, right? Casman, good morning. You sort of missed. It was, I guess, some people are going to look at this and go, "Oh, this is a rant, or I'm being disrespectful." It's not at all, man. I'm just trying to, I guess, discuss how some guys can know that they're ready for, when to become a lease operator. And the short message here, I mean, I probably could, if I were to make this video in 30 seconds, I would say you've got to know a whole lot of details about your business, everything from running your numbers, your paperwork, FMCA regs and guidelines and that sort of stuff, to what type of rear end you want, what type of powertrain, are you mechanical, what the truck is just a tool. Look, especially guys, again, I'm going to wrap this up, so I'm not going to go far on this tangent, but when I hear guys say, "Oh, I want this kind of a truck, this is I know I want this," okay, why? And they start talking sort of about the creature comforts. If you're looking to buy a truck that's in that $30,000 to $60,000 price range, guys, you're probably only going to have that truck for maybe 2.5 years tops. Unless you get really lucky, or you are incredibly mechanical and you're going to be putting a lot of money into this, you're probably only going to have that truck for 2.5 years. It's a tool, guys. That's all it is. A $30,000 to $60,000 truck is a tool. Make sure that you're getting the right tool for the job. Make sure that you've got the right powertrain, make sure that you got the right rear end, you got the right transmission. It's a tool. Make sure you got the right tool for where you're going to be running and how you're going to be running. Down the road, when you go to buy something, much newer, that's a year or two old or something like that, that you plan on having for for 4 or 5 years or longer, okay, then sort of worry about some of the more luxurious items. That $30,000 to $60,000 truck, it's just a tool, and it's probably not going to be pretty, right? You should be far more concerned about the functionality of that truck versus the looks. And look, I get we all want nice things, but starting out, let me give you one quick example. A friend of mine and his wife, they're both dentists. They graduated at the same time. They're going into business at the same time. They came out to Colorado, this has been years ago, and then we were talking about business, and they had two options, sort of. They could go and buy a bunch of dental chairs and stuff from another dentist that was kind of retiring, or they could go buy all new stuff, right, which was significantly more expensive. So we sort of talked about it. A few years later, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 years later, he and I and his wife were having dinner, and I said, "Hey, so you ended up buying the used stuff," which he did not want to do, which they did. They were both dentists. They didn't want to do. That's what they ended up doing, though. And I said, "Was that the right decision or wrong decision?" He said, "Absolutely the right decision." He's like, we would put ourselves so far in debt initially, and then he said, for some of the mistakes that we made in the business, all that additional debt might not have allowed us to be successful. The fact that we had lower costs due to buying some of the older equipment allowed us to make those mistakes. So they, again, right, smart people, both had degrees as doctors in dentistry. They still made mistakes in business. Now these guys live in about $1.5 million home outside of Oklahoma City. They're doing really well. Their business, life is good for them. Had they chose to buy the really expensive, nice stuff right out of the gate in their new business, they would not be where they're at today. They would have lost their business. So there's just a lot of different examples in life of knowing your numbers, minimizing your risk, and that sort of stuff. So Look, let me try to just answer a few questions here, and then we'll wrap it up. Johnny says they start rolling their truck next week, and he's nervous, as you should be. You will be. If you're not, if the juices aren't flowing when you're starting a new business or you're doing something different and unique, like, yeah, man, you should be nervous, right? Even if you have all the competence and all the confidence, you should still be nervous. Thank you, truck driving lady. I'm glad you feel that this is good advice. Truckman Nancy says, I own or am in the process of buying a home. That's how I look at getting my own truck. Sure, you're welcome. There's a lot of leg humpers in here this morning, which is good. Normally I get a lot of haters. That's fine. That's funny, Johnny. Johnny says he'll take the blonde with blue eyes and a nice rear end. Try living in a box for 2 years. Yeah, Johnny, I'm sure you're right. That's probably one of the keys to success, starting out. And yeah, cheese, yeah, it's a Raptor. And you're right, Casman, that's a great point. Chrome is not going to get you home. Man, once guys are successful and sort of stuff like that, yeah, man, go start spending a little money and make that tool something that you're proud of. I don't have an issue with that. I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm the kind of guy that I prefer to have cash in the bank for if and when bad things happen. I don't go through vehicles all that often, and I probably can afford to. But I don't even spend a lot of money on that. I'm so freaking tight. It's a joke. But I'm tight because there have been times in my life where I was really poor, relatively speaking, right? Relatively speaking. So I'm just really tight. And it's sort of funny. It's, as I look back at things, it's like, boy, when I used to be somewhat frivolous with money, I was poor. When I became tight and started making some different business decisions and different life decisions, all of a sudden, things change. Miss Weatherspoon. Good morning. Has anyone seen my beautiful Dave Wilbur this morning? I haven't even talked to Dave this morning, but Miss Weatherspoon, I will call him. I will call him for you. Chrome for life, says SoCal. Have I heard anything about cargo? They are self-dispatched. So, no, I have. Yes, but the short answer is not really. I haven't. Not enough to really have any kind of a conversation about cargo. When you're trolling to the bridge, Rich like SoCal, you can have a chromed on a vape gun. I pretty much do squeak when I walk. I am tight. You know who that drives bonkers? That drives Kristen bonkers. I can say that because she doesn't ever watch. She hardly ever watches these videos. She gets really aggravated at certain times. Usually she gets most aggravated when it's a decision on how much I'm about to spend on a bottle of wine. Kristen is I'm the kind of guy, like, when I go to buy a bottle of wine, for her, I'm not particularly a big wine guy. I'm like, $30 to $50 kind of guy. And Kristen's, knowing me and my situation, is sort of like, why are we going to go cheap? Why can't we get like a really nice bottle of wine? And I'm like, why do I want to drop $120 on something that's going to be gone in an hour? So yeah, I'm not sure that I squeak when I walk, but maybe sometimes. What are you barking at? Those dogs? Get them. Yeah, you want to get them? Let's see. Yes, I'll give Dave Wilbur your phone number. Johnny R., will I ever return a message? Yes. Have you sent me a message? If you did, did you send me a message? Send me another message. What is it? thetruckingexec@gmail.com, and I will get back to you. Always new sneakers. That's funny. You're trying to get a lift. Holy cow. That's awesome. I'm sure Dave would love to see you. I'll tell you though, I've met Julie. She's pretty mean. So watch out. Trucker 202 says, I'm going to start charging truckers for psychological advice. That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. Hool says he's into whiskey. Went wine shopping. Apparently I buy expensive stuff. Look cheap though. Kristen, so Kristen and I, every now and then when we go, we'll just go buy, like every now and then we sort of get in those moods of we don't care what we're going to spend, whether it's $10 a bottle or whatever the price is. We're just going to go buy like, 10 or 12 bottles, and we're just going to buy everything on how cool the bottle or the label is. It's always interesting to, when you do open that bottle to see kind of how different it is. Don't feel bad, Johnny R. He never returns my. All right, so here's the thing. I am not look. I even did a video on this. I'm not the best at returning messages, especially right now. But I will tell you guys what. If you have a question and I haven't addressed it, send an email to thetruckingexec@gmail.com, and I promise that I will return that message or that email within 3 days. Right? If you send it today, I promise within 3 days I will return it. But I am not the best. I apologize. And you guys can all blame Howard and some of our drivers and a whole lot of other people for that stuff. Did you hear the news? Jake Cannell is getting a team driver to run local. That's really funny. What's my favorite bourbon? Man. Gosh, I don't really know. I don't know. Johnny, why do I feel Mrs. Weatherspoon is a man, right? All right, cool. Let's wrap it up, guys. That's kind of it. Again, no offense, no offense meant towards any of these other guys. I want them to be successful. If they are asking my opinion, if they're ready, as I share with them, they're not. I'm not saying that they cannot be successful. I'm not saying that they can't go sign a lease right now today and that they won't get lucky. I'm just not the biggest fan of luck. I sort of feel like, luck happens to those that are, most prepared. So I'm not trying to be down on anybody. I'm not. You're taking a risk, whether it's somebody else's money, but you're also putting an investment of your time into that lease up game. What? Why? Why does this have to happen right now? We've gone through the entire live feed and this hasn't happened. And now hey, stop. Seriously. He looks like a nice guy. So again, I don't mean any disrespect. I want people that get into this industry to be successful. So I just think it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. You guys get it. My opinion. You guys have a great weekend. If you're making miles, stay safe. Take care.